This year marks the 100th anniversary of the Warner Brothers film studio, and to celebrate, they're releasing some of their most classic movies on 4K Blu-ray that is. So they're giving these films the 4K scan treatment and releasing them in all their glory, some of them for the first time in 4K also. To kickstart the 100 years celebration, we had the release of 2001's Training Day on 4K, and I just couldn't resist picking up this beautiful Steelbook version of it. So that's what we'll be doing. Firstly, we're having a quick little look, little unbox of this Steelbook edition. We'll discuss the movie, and then ultimately we'll move in to the new 4K transfer, discussing in detail its video and audio quality. I stuck this on, I was completely blown away with this new transfer, but we'll get to that just shortly. So thanks for sticking with us, guys. If you're hitting the channel up for the first time, I'm Andy, ElectricGeek, and I mainly cover 4K Blu-ray, physical media, home cinema and all that good stuff. So if you're hitting it for the first time, please consider subscribing so you don't miss my future content. But yeah, on to the Steelbook. So I think this is really nice. Now there were a couple of options. There's the vanilla slipcase edition, which will cost you 20 quid. This cost me £24.99, and you can get this from the usual HMV, Zavvi and the Warner Brothers store in the UK, certainly online. But there was a Zavvi exclusive Steelbook design which came with a kind of rigid slipcover. I think it had art cards, an A3 poster, all that kind of usual stuff. But I actually preferred the design and the look of this one, and it was 10 quid cheaper. So I thought, do you know what, I'll do without all that kind of bumf and just go with this version. I do think it's worth getting the Steelbook for an extra £5 over the 20 quid vanilla version, so that was my kind of thought process behind that. So yeah, as you can see, it's a really nice design, I think. Muted kind of colours they've used here, but I think it's in keeping with the film. Really cool, sophisticated looking. The titling has some spot gloss, but it's mainly matte, and you've got the kind of like the street map effect in the background of LA there, with of course Alonso's super cool Monte Carlo car. And then on the back you've got some debossing for the bullet holes, and the spine's quite nice as well. With it you obviously get the 4K disc and the Blu-ray. Now it's worth noting at this point that the Blu-ray isn't the old one that was released back in the noughties some point. With its old VC1 transfer, it is actually a new transfer. It's AVC encoding and the bitrate is much higher. It's obviously a downscaled 4K master, the one that they've used for the 4K Blu-ray, put into the Blu-ray. So definitely a big upgrade over that old Blu-ray. And I would even suggest that even if you don't have a 4K player, you're not quite there yet with your kind of tech capability, if you really love the film, it's worth buying this just to get a hold of the new mastered Blu-ray, because I don't think they've released this currently on its own. So yeah, just a little bit to throw in there with regards to Blu-ray. As for the movie itself, I absolutely love Training Day. I think it is a true modern classic. I understand why they've included it. Warner Brothers on the 100-year celebration. Obviously netted Denzel Washington his first and only Best Actor Oscar. It was his second Oscar for having won one previously, Best Supporting Actor, for the late 80s film Glory. But yeah, I think this is his most defining role, and Ethan Hawke more than matches him blow for blow as well. I think he actually got nominated also for Best Supporting Actor, but obviously didn't win. But yeah, classic movie. I had it on DVD, that's my kind of history with it. I watched it loads back in the early noughties when it came out, 2002, 2003, and for some reason just never upgraded to the Blu-ray. So when I stuck this on, I was completely blown away with this new transfer, but we'll get to that just shortly. But yeah, cracking film. Basically the premise to Training Day is that Ethan Hawke plays Detective Hoyt, and he's a kind of rookie, fairly new cop who's getting the chance to try out for a kind of narcotics drug squad, where Denzel Washington's character, Detective Alonso, is the kind of lead man, the kind of spearhead guy in that unit. So it's his training day, it's his kind of trial day if you like. He's going to meet Alonso, and he has to kind of impress to see whether or not he's going to get kind of accepted into this kind of bespoke elite drug squad to hopefully further his career, because he wants to make detective. So that's where the film kind of starts, and we go along for the ride with Ethan Hawke's character. We're kind of naive to what's going on also, and at first, you know, Alonso's very charismatic, charming, but there's just something a bit unsettling about him. He doesn't dress like a normal cop. He's obviously plain clothes. He's got a ridiculously expensive and over-the-top car. His style is like that as well, you know, he's carrying all his bling on him. He's obviously making a bit of money, so right away you're thinking, is this guy a bit corrupt, whatever? And obviously it develops from there, and it's a test of morality throughout for Ethan Hawke until it builds to its conclusion, but I won't say any more than that just in case you haven't seen it. But a thoroughly satisfying film, really enjoyable from beginning to end, doesn't really let up, and fantastic performances. Okay, so on the video side, when it comes to this new transfer, it is of course native 4K. They have scanned the original 35mm negative, and I must say it is absolutely fantastic. Really, really impressed. As I mentioned earlier, I am coming from the memory of a DVD about 15 years ago, but I really was impressed. I'd never seen the Blu-ray, and I haven't done a comparison here because, as I mentioned earlier, it is the new transfer they've put on the Blu-ray that comes with this 4K release, so I didn't really see the point in comparing it, because I think most people will be coming obviously from the older Blu-ray, which I think this 4K disc especially will blow away. But yeah, as soon as I put it on, the resolution, the detail, the cinematic feel, the very, very fine grain structure is all preserved really nicely. I will say the opening sequence with Detective Jake Hoyt kind of waking up in the morning, it's in his apartment with his wife, it's dark, and that's probably when the film looks its least impressive, so don't be put off by that kind of opening scene. By the time we kind of roll around to him meeting Alonzo in the cafe, and when we walk out and we see Alonzo's car for the first time, the detail there is fantastic. It's been raining, all the raindrops in the car, the way the lights, the morning lights reflecting on it is fantastic. Really well realised, the intricate detail there with obviously the native 4K and the HDR, but we'll come on to that later. But yeah, really, really impressed with certainly the resolution and the way that they've rendered the grain structure. I think it's just nice. No signs of overuse. It's not DNR'd to death or anything like that. I just think they've done it really, really well. Onto the HDR, and as is often the case, I really think this is the big reason to upgrade. Normally, however, I think resolution and the HDR format here will both be big wins over that old Blu-ray from years and years ago. What I would say the HDR really helps with in this film is kind of realise that LA, the set in LA is like the third main character in this movie. It's training day at the end of the day. It starts at the beginning and it ends at kind of midnight. And I think with HDR, you know, that wide spectrum of colour, the way that they can better render the sun, the kind of sunrise and the sunsets and stuff, you really do get that feeling of the day passing throughout. And the LA vistas are fantastic. Whenever there's kind of greenery, you know, like when they're in the neighbourhoods and they're going through people's front doors, through their gardens and stuff, the flowers and the flower beds and all that's just so much better realised. The colours are so vibrant, the HDR is really evident there. When it comes to the kind of fourth character, if you like, in the film, Denzel's, Alonzo's Monte Carlo car, it always looks fantastic. I think the HDR highlights for the kind of shine off the grille is superb, the interior in the car as well. And another thing that I noticed throughout is that whenever their badges are on show, you know, they're obviously plainclothes detectives, so when they swing the badges around to the front, the sheen off the golden badges is fantastic and just looks really nice in HDR. But yeah, I just thought that the picture quality throughout the whole movie was a standout, and it's definitely a 5 out of 5 on the video alone. On to the audio, and again we get a substantial upgrade over the old Blu-ray release. Now I was coming from a DVD, as I said, so it would have been lossy 5.1, but believe it or not, that's what was also on the Blu-ray, which is pretty disappointing because it was an earlier Blu-ray release. But this time around we get Dolby Atmos, and it's 7-channel, 7.1 True HD for anyone who's not Atmos capable or doesn't have an Atmos capable setup. But by God, what an upgrade this is. It's superb. Sometimes Atmos for these older movies, I know this is only 20 years old, sometimes it can be a bit underwhelming, but I really thought it was just as good as a modern movie. The soundtrack to this movie is fantastic, and that's when I first really heard it kick in. When they jump into Alonzo's car and he starts up the engine, the bass there is fantastic, and the growl of the car, and then obviously you've got the soundtrack dropping in, the Dr. Dre track, superb. And then thereafter it's just kind of atmospheric, dialogue's always clear throughout. And I would say it's when you get to the first shootout that you get your next kind of shake, if you like. When they get to the neighbourhood and they kind of turn Macy Gray's house pretending to have a warrant, she obviously finds out they don't. Then it attracts the attention of the kind of local hoods. Alonzo opens up on the hoods before they get a chance to. And I actually got a bit of a fright when I was sitting because I just didn't expect the gunfire to be as loud, but loads of punch, really hard hitting, and really helped drive home that scene. So yeah, really impressive Atmos upgrade, and just a reminder that that is also on the new Blu-ray transfer. So if you're not 4K capable yet, it is still worth considering maybe even getting that vanilla one just to get a hold of the Blu-ray meantime, because it's a substantial upgrade in video and audio. So yeah, as far as training day is concerned on 4K, you might have already guessed this, but I'm giving it a 5 out of 5. I think it's an absolute belter of a start for Warner Brothers' 100 years celebration. If this is what we've got to look forward to, you know, it's going to be a good year, certainly for the Warner Brothers back catalogue. I know that Cool Hand Luke, Monty's Falcon, Rebel Without a Cause is out already, I believe, maybe this week, or certainly coming out this month. But there's loads of good titles coming out, some genre box sets down the line, one of which has Enter the Dragon in it for the first time in 4K. So that's one I'll definitely review on the channel, even if I have to buy that box set. So I better start saving my pennies. But yeah, I can thoroughly Recommend training day. As I say, I would go for the middle option. I think that's the best kind of value for money, but just get it. Even if you have the existing Blu-ray, this is a big upgrade. But that's all I've got for you in this one. I've been Andy, Electric Geek. I really hope you've enjoyed it and you've found it useful. If you have, then please consider giving it a wee like. It really helps the channel and it helps the video get out to other like-minded people. And consider subscribing for more content. Take it easy and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.